airport at Tel Aviv. And another incident which was quite close to us was when they raided an oil facility in Singapore, took some hostages and so on, and asked for a ransom. So they are quite well known to us.
But we have no sort of direct intelligence to suggest that they were coming to Kuala Lumpur to do a job here.
The Japanese Red Army secretly enters Kuala Lumpur to target supporters of Israel, the Embassy of Sweden, and the United States of America.
Earlier that year, in '75, two alleged members of the Japanese Red Army had been taken by the Swedish police in Stockholm when they were taking photos of foreign embassies. And they had been sent back to Japan, where they had been imprisoned. So Sweden had done something very, very impolite and nasty to the Japanese Red Army.
The enemy is not only Israel. European, Americans, capitalist power is heavily supporting, strongly supporting Israel. So it's meaning for them, not only fighting against Israel, but such a, how to say, alliance for Israel is the enemy. We study the political situation, international level and Japanese level and ASEAN level. And then we made study work. And by chance, we could get the research report, complex building, American, Swedish, and Japanese, all embassy and consulate there inside. So we could find out it's a very nice target for the military operation.
In the same week as the hostage crisis, Japan is having summit talks with the United States of America. A well-executed hostage incident could cause international embarrassment and sour economic relations. At the operations center of the AIA Building, Inspector General of Police Harnif Omar and his team are carefully studying the gunman's note.
They threw out a piece of paper which identified themselves and listed the demands and their threat as well. So we knew, you see. They wanted about 7 GRA members in jail in Japan to be released.
The Malaysian government immediately puts together a team of negotiators to handle the hostage crisis.
Tan Sri Marika Pasagam was appointed as Minister of Communication at that time to be the chief negotiator.
Japanese Ambassador Mikcheki Suma immediately makes his way to the operations center. The terrorists are getting impatient and send a grim reminder to the police. Shots fired from level 9 to the street below hit Police Constable Kuamud Kurazak. He is the 4th to be injured. The gunmen have demanded for the immediate release of 7 Japanese Red Army members imprisoned in Japan. They threaten the hostages will be shot one by one, and the first to die will be U.S. Consul Robert Stebbins. To avoid a bloodbath, the Malaysian authorities pressure the Japanese ambassador to act swiftly. On level 9 in the Swedish embassy, Secretary Ulla Adquist and her boss Fredrik Bergenstroller have managed to elude capture for almost 2 hours. But their luck is running out. Next door in the U.S. consulate, the gunmen threaten the hostages to reveal anyone hiding elsewhere on the floor. Adquist and Bergenstroller are soon discovered by the gunmen.
Of course they had to tell, because they knew that they were armed, and they also probably knew at that time that they had bomb material. So when they heard that we were there inside the embassy, they smashed the glass door. We could hear that, and they shouted to us to get out. We opened the door first, and there were 2 terrorists standing at the side, each side of the door, and one at the entrance door with their guns pointed at us. and they said, "Don't be afraid." And I was very scared.
By afternoon, there is still no news on whether the Japanese government will concede to the demands of the terrorists.
You see, the Japanese was following the American line. The American line was no negotiation with terrorists.
American never negotiate. They don't want to negotiate. So American will ask the Japanese side to solve by Japanese way.
The gunmen are getting restless and push their demands, release their Red Army colleagues from prison, or suffer the consequences. They then grab Swedish diplomat Bergenstoller.
There was one moment when they told Mr. Bergenstoller to come with them. Then I got really heart beating. I was really scared, because I thought that now they're going to shoot him, because they had said that if they don't get what they want, they will shoot one by one.
4th August, 1975. 5 members of the Japanese Red Army militant group are holding 53 hostages in the U.S. consulate on level 9 of the AIA Building in downtown Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Their demands: to release their comrades from prison in Japan and supply them with a safe flight out of the country. Negotiations are stagnant after more than 3 hours into the siege. Suddenly, the terrorists grab hold of Swedish diplomat Bergenstoller and drag him out of the U.S. consulate. His secretary, Ulla Adquist, fears that her boss will be the first to be executed.
He was taken away and came back after about 10 minutes. And he had been forced to open the safety room in the embassy, where they took some blank passports, and they were also looking at all the things, and there was some money, but they didn't take the money.
While it's clear the U.S. will not negotiate with terrorists, the Japanese government's stance still remains unclear. Feeling the pressure, the Malaysian government decides to replace government official Manik Kabasagam with Garzali Shafi'i to lead the negotiations. They know that Garzali gives them more options around the negotiation table.
The whole thing was taken over by Tan Sri Zali. He was, I suppose, a more dynamic personality. He was also Minister of Home Affairs, and he was ex-Foreign Ministry and knew all the world leaders.
His negotiation skills, I think he sticks to the objective and the strategy very closely. You know, he doesn't divert from the main objective that we are all trying to achieve.
As day 1 comes to an end, the Malaysian authorities are still in the dark over the fate of the hostages and the Japanese government's next move. The negotiation team waits out an anxious night, but the next morning, news arrives from Japan.
9 a.m. we got to know that the Japanese government would release the GRA prisoners to be given up to these hostage takers.
The Japanese government has decided to release 7 Red Army prisoners.
They demanded 7, and actually 2 didn't want to come. And they wanted that, they told us, and said that we would not get any food until they knew that the 5 were on their way to Malaysia.
Few of us got some chocolate to eat. That's all we eat until 2 o'clock in the morning.
When they knew it was confirmed that the fellow terrorists from Japan were on their way, then we got packages with chicken and bread and so on.
Just before 8 in the evening, A DC-8 aircraft arrives at Subang Airport with the 5 Japanese prisoners. They are escorted under heavy security to the airport terminal and are instructed to wait there as negotiations continue. At the operations center of the AIA Building, Chief Negotiator Ghazali Shafi'i speaks again with the leader of the terrorists.
It's unnatural for them to release all the hostages, and what do they have for their own protection? Is it? Then we've got to speak to them. Look, how about the sick, the infirm, the children? Is it? So that's how negotiations take place. We must try and save as many as possible.
After almost 39 hours since the hostages were first taken captive, the Japanese Red Army releases only 9 hostages. The fate of the 44 others remains unknown. It's day 3 of the siege on the AIA Building. Now the terrorists want to get to the airport, pick up their waiting comrades, and escape to an Arab country. Having shot 4 people already, the terrorists' actions are erratic and unpredictable. The negotiation team realizes they still have a chance to rescue the remaining hostages. The police plan for a special action unit to take down the terrorists as they emerge from the building.
We had to see whether, if anything were to go wrong, whether we could take them out at any point there. So we had to have sufficient men to cover. But the best men, of course, to take people out from a distance would be snipers.
Up on level 9, the terrorists make their move. Grabbing some of the hostages, they head towards the stairs.
They were leaving first, and that when they